There was a time not that long ago when the only thing you needed to do in order to stand out against the other candidates was to research the company beforehand and include some of that research in your answers. These days, you'll be standing out if you haven't researched the company, but the problem is, you'll stand out for the wrong reasons and you won't make it past the first interview. Research is not the only thing you need to do these days when preparing for a job interview, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the 7 preparation steps I recommend that you do before the job interview to make sure you're doing everything you can to get that job offer. Welcome to the Career Upgrade. My name is Petra Pierce and I'm a career strategist and a coach. Over the past 20 years, I have worked as a global HR leader in several Fortune 500 companies, helping hundreds of professionals just like you to build their career and maximize their performance. Here on this channel, I'm sharing insights on how to answer interview questions, as well as tips on how to up-level your career. If that's something you're interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below and the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post a new video. So what are these 7 steps that I recommend that you do before the job interview? Before we dive into those, let's first remind ourselves why companies hire. Well, they hire because they have a problem to solve. Typically, this problem is either a resource or a competence need. Sometimes, companies hire because they need both. More resources and someone with a specific skill no one else in the company has. Keeping this in mind when you prepare for your interview will help you focus your preparation and plan your answers. Okay, so let's look at the 7 preparation steps I recommend that you should do before you attend an interview. These are steps that I've done every time I've interviewed for a position, and also steps I recommend to all my coaching clients. If you haven't already, make sure you download the workbook for this episode. The link is down below, so go ahead and download that now before you continue. Just click on the link, enter your email address, and the workbook is sent to you straight away. Step number 1, clean up your online presence. Okay, so this first step isn't actually about the job interview, but it's so important and easy to miss that I had to start with it. We get so wrapped up in preparing for the questions and researching the company that we often forget that they will actually research us too. Hopefully, you've already cleaned up your online presence before you started to apply for jobs, but if you haven't, make sure that you do that before you do anything else. So Google your name and see what comes up. You obviously cannot control everything that comes up in the search result, but the things that you can control, you should tidy up. So when the recruiter or the hiring manager or anyone else from the company you're interviewing with are Googling you, they'll get a good first impression. You can be confident that they'll check all your social media channels, so you want to make sure that those give the impression you want them to give to your future employer. And if your Google search shows an answer in a forum that you may or may not want the prospective employee to discover, I recommend that you go into that forum and delete the comment if you're able to do so. Step number 2 in the preparation process is to understand what they are looking for and what problem they're trying to solve with hiring for this position. In this step, you should examine the job description and go through it almost sentence by sentence and really think about what their job description is saying. What I have found work well for me is to write down my interpretation of what they're looking for, and I write it in a way as if someone would ask me, "What do you know about the role?" Which, by the way, is the question that you're probably going to get asked at some point in the interview. Many candidates do prepare for the interview by reading and, in some cases, even memorize the job description, but not many candidates take the time to really think about what the company is actually trying to achieve by filling the role. Even fewer candidates are prepared enough to be able to articulate this with their own words, as opposed to just repeating what is said in the job posting. So if you prepare this way, you'll definitely stand out. Okay, so that was step number 2. Let's look at number 3. The third preparation step is to get clear on what you're looking for in your next job and why. One of the fundamental things that the interviewer is looking to understand in the interview process is your future aspirations and how well their role fits into those aspirations. There are many different ways that the interviewer can ask questions to get clarity on this. A direct question may be, "How long do you plan on working here?" But they can also ask more discreetly by using questions like, why do you want to work here? Or what interests you about this position? So you want to make sure that you are prepared to answer those questions. Not only that, it is essential that you take time and get clear on what you're looking for in your next job and why, so you can make sure that you assess them just as much as they are evaluating you. I have a very simple exercise that can help you get clearer on your future aspirations, and you find the exercise in the workbook. But simply put, what you do is to think about your ideal position from 3 different angles. The first one is, when you think about an ideal role, what are the aspects that have to be there in order for it to be an ideal role? So what are the non-negotiable aspects? The second angle is, what are the aspects in the ideal position that you can live with? What are the things that doesn't matter if they're there or not? And then the third angle is, what are the aspects that you absolutely don't want included in the ideal position? So again, what are the non-negotiable aspects? But this time, what is it that you absolutely don't want to do? I find that when I do this exercise after having looked at the job description, it helps me formulate why I want the job and how it fits into my future aspiration, which I then also write down so that I can look back at it during the entire job interview process. Okay, let's move on to step number 4, which is knowing what your competences and capabilities are and which ones are your strengths and which ones are less strong. Many of the questions you're asked in an interview is related to assessing whether you have the right skills and capabilities for the job, so it's important that you are clear about what your skills are. You also want to make sure that you know which one of your skills are your strong ones and which ones you're weaker in, since you're going to have to talk about it at some point during the interview process. One exercise I always recommend that you do when starting the job search is a skills inventory and a self-assessment exercise. This one I actually recommend that you do at the beginning of your job search and not wait until you have an interview scheduled. I go deeper into explaining this exercise in the workbook, and if you haven't yet downloaded the book, now is a good time to pause the video and click on that link below. What you do in this exercise is that you look at your resume and you list all your skills, and once you have them listed, you go through each of them and answer the following questions. What's my current skill level? Is it low, medium, or high? What's an example when this has been a strength in my past? What's an example when this has been a weakness in my past? What actions have I taken to improve this skill? What are the results I've had with this skill? And here you want to focus on something that is tangible for a business. So for example, did you save money? Did you increase revenue? Did you increase productivity? Did you improve a process? It's obviously different for different skills and not everything applies, but the key is to keep it business focused. In other words, what's in it for them? You should do this for all the skills that you've listed and make sure that you're honest in your self-evaluation and that you write real examples and that you keep your answers short and positive. When it's time to prepare for the specific interview, all you have to do is to cross-reference your list of skills with the skills they've outlined that they need, and that helps you prepare your answers. This preparation step is a great exercise to do when preparing for the questions related to your strengths and your weaknesses. I have videos coming up in the next couple of weeks that will dive deeper into how to answer both of those questions. Okay, let's move on to step number 5 in the preparation, and that is to research the company. This step is probably the one that most candidates do, and also the one that takes the most time, but it is also the one that can really pay off if you do it properly. Most candidates these days are doing some kind of research, but not everyone takes the time to internalize and understand the information. So if you do that, it will set you apart from the rest of the candidates. Okay, so the first research step is to read the company website, and I recommend that you always start with this step. This so you can get a clear understanding of their history, the size of the organization, where they're located, how they make money and what makes them unique, etc. You also want to spend time understanding things like their vision and their mission, and to understand what their culture is like and what their values are. And if they have a career page, which most companies have these days, you should definitely read those pages too to get an understanding of what it would be like to work there. It's often on these pages that you find information about their values and culture, and you may also find articles about different employee-related activities. or articles about employees where they talk about what it's like to work there. Then I recommend that you look at the investor pages, or if they have a specific section that outlines their management structure. What you want to find is the names of the top leaders and write that information down because you're going to use it later on. The next research thing I recommend that you do is to Google the organization so that you have a good understanding of what is being covered externally about the company. So you're looking for articles, blog posts, forum posts, etc., which mentions the company. The next recommendation I have is that you should sign up for their social media channels as soon as you've been scheduled for the interview, because you want to make sure that you're keeping up to date with the latest news. As a minimum, you should follow their LinkedIn page, their Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure to turn on the notifications so you don't miss when they publish something on these channels. Take note on anything that you believe can be beneficial for you to bring up in the interview, or at least to be aware of. Okay, so the next research step is to research the interviewers you'll be meeting with. Before the interview, find out as much as you can about the people you'll be meeting with. Google them and check out their LinkedIn profiles and see what comes up. And just try and find out more about them so that you don't walk in blind to the meeting. If you're able to find anything about their interests and what they may like or dislike, that's great. But there's a balance here that's important. You don't want to do too much research because that can start influence your behavior in the interview. But some knowledge on who they are and what their professional background is certainly useful information to have. Okay, the next step is to research the executives or the top leaders. For these steps, the names that you collected when you researched the company comes in handy because now we're going to look for information about them. What you want to find out is information that can give you insights on what their current focus is and what they talk about publicly. Even if you may not be meeting with them, it's still useful information to have because after all, it is the executives and the top leaders that sets the tone in the organization. So it's good to have some insights on who they are and what they stand for. Okay, so that wraps up the research step. Let's look at preparation step number 6, which is preparing your answers. It is so essential that you prepare your answer in advance so that you know how to present yourself in the best possible way and to stand out as the best candidate for the job. Unfortunately, it's not enough these days to have an excellent track record or glowing performance review. It certainly helps, but in order for you to be noticed, you need to make sure that you are noticed, and the best way to do that is to prepare your answers so that you come across as confident and well-spoken. So make sure that you allow time to prepare and in some cases even rehearse your answers. Here on this channel, I'm sharing tips on how to prepare and answer interview questions, and I have loads more videos coming up on how to answer specific questions. And if you want more personalized help with preparing your interview, check out my website for more information. Preparation step number 7, and the final step in our list of preparation, is all about preparing questions to ask the interviewer. Most interviewers finishes the interview with asking, "Do you have any questions for me?" And this one can be a little bit tricky. On the one hand, it's important that you don't say, "No, actually I don't. I feel that you've covered everything I wanted to know." It may be true, but what you're doing by answering this way is signaling to the interviewer that you're not really that interested, which is not something that you want to do unless you're not interested, of course, because in that case, signal away. And at the same time, this final remark can also often be a courtesy question, and the interviewer is not at all interested in answering questions. So you need to make sure that your questions are real questions and not just a question you ask because you can't say that you don't have any questions. In the workbook, there's a list of suggested questions that you can ask in each stage of the interview process. So if you need any help with coming up with questions, I recommend that you check that section out. That is it. That is the 7 preparation steps I recommend that you do as a minimum to prepare for your job interview. And that will help you get past the first round of interviews and, if you do it right, all the way to that job offer. I hope you found this useful and that it helps you with the preparations for your next interview. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway is from what I've just shared with you. Good luck with your interview. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.